And from wherever you are in the world, good evening, good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Scott Churchson, and this is Tales from the Film Set. And welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the app stores of iOS and Android devices. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Both apps are free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And a very good evening to you three gentlemen. This is Tales from the Film Set. As always, you can find us on Twitter at Film Set Tales and on Tales from the Film Set on both Instagram and Facebook. Ryan, I haven't seen you in about 3 hours. How you doing, sir?
I haven't left the room. I've just been waiting.
Cool. You've just been sitting there the whole time, just patiently waiting for this next show to start. And that's awesome. I appreciate that.
Yes, you can't say I'm not dedicated.
Hey, listen, I respect the loyalty, and you're worth every penny I pay you.
Wait a minute.
JT.
I'm doing well. I'm ready to talk some film.
Exactly. JT, Rob, how you gents doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing really great. Thanks for having me on the show, as always. So I'm ready to rock it out.
We'll just leave it there. However you rock out, I'm going to leave that one there.
Rob is just always so mellow. It's like he's the biggest pothead who I've never seen smoke. I love it.
Well, because he doesn't need it, because that's the thing. He's just so very absolutely chill. He doesn't need anything to bring, to basically make it happen. All right. So we got a bunch of stuff we're going to be covering tonight. We're going to be talking Cobra Kai season 4 and the trailer that came out. A little bit of Marty Cove too, because this brings up some of the stories that I had and how much I absolutely am grateful to see the resurgence in his career. Maybe a little Stranger Things season 4, and especially, and this is the big part of this, and this is what I'm going to be leading off with, the potentiality of the IATSE strike within Hollywood. This is something that's been making the waves. You've been seeing things possibly in Deadline, Variety, Hollywood Reporter about the potentiality of a 150,000 person union possibly going on strike because of some of the concerns that they have when it comes to safety and, frankly, the money aspect as well. Before I get onto my personal soapbox and go off on this, do any of you three have anything that you wanted to talk about first before I more or less monopolize this entire conversation?
I actually did have a question for you.
Please.
You just said this is for LA. Now, is it just LA or is this...
No, it's not LA. It's nationwide.
So this is going to affect almost every film and television crew throughout the entire United States.
Coast to coast. Yeah.
With the exception of a couple of networks, HBO is one of them, Stars, I think Cinemax, Showtime, or some of the other ones as well, because they were grandfathered in under a different contract, so they actually do not apply here. This is more focused on the new media aspect of it, but no, it is nationwide.
The new media.
That's where their biggest. That's one of their biggest cruxes. Yes.
New media being like anything that's on the internet, as far as like being streamed, that kind of thing. I would assume
streaming, YouTube, anything that's
Netflix,
normally
Disney Plus, Apple
digital
TV.
content.
Yes.
Now, what I had read wasn't so much that it was about new media; it was actually an ongoing issue with just hours in general.
That's the other part of it too. Yes, it's both actually.
I thought new media was really only being brought into it because the higher demand for content is leading to people working more hours on top of the hours that they were already overworked.
It's not even that. I mean, the hours in the safety. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially with the fact that these films are being broadcast, or not broadcast, but they're being.
It's still broadcast.
All right, so they're being broadcast in film theaters, and then on HBO Max, not necessarily HBO Max particular, but like with being streamed, through the various whatever streaming services are being available, that are available, whatever. But yeah, I would assume that if you're going to offer it online as well as being in the theaters, then there's going to be that money issue.
That's not the issue in this particular case. The issue that they have is the fact that when the contract for new media came out, it was 2009. At the time, nobody actually really knew what streaming was going to be and what the future was going to be. I mean, you could guess what, things like Netflix and, Amazon, you obviously now hindsight being 2020, I mean, you have perfect hindsight, but at the time it was a questionable thing. Nobody really knew what they could make of it. So what ended up happening was the contract is if a streaming service has less than 20 million subscribers, then they get a reduced rate for the crew to work it. So case in point, if it was Netflix back in 2009, 2010, or 11, it would have been a lower rate than a regular episodic on CBS, a movie, or NBC, or anything like that. Netflix, Disney Plus, they don't apply because they're over 20 million. The problem is the smaller ones like Apple TV, and things like that have
Peacock.
less than 20. And Peacock, I think it has programming too. Yeah, I think that's right. But those guys there have less than 20 million subscribers. So as a result, the crew has a negotiated lower rate, even though Apple pretty much ran away, with the awards through Ted Lasso. So their crux when it comes to the monetary side is, you are working off an old contract that at this point is now 12 years old, and we're getting paid less while these shows are just being absolutely just dominating in the ratings and the marketability part of it. That's the monetary side. The other side, and you mentioned this, JT, was the safety concerns. Now, again, before I go into my part of that, thoughts, if you guys have anything you want to go into before I get on that soapbox?
I don't have anything to add, mostly because I hate to say it, I've always somehow managed to land in a non-union job in my news career. So I've been unlucky like that, but I'm like, as someone who does work on film here and there, I'm very curious to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the concern that they have. There is a show that is filming in New York. I'm not going to mention the name of it. You would know it. But when I was there a couple of months ago, they were just starting a new system that was going to be running for a while. It was a 6-day week where they started on Monday, 7 a.m., worked repeatedly 12 to 14 to even 15 hours. And because of the way the turnaround works as a 12-hour turnaround, if you work from 7 a.m. to, say, 9 p.m., then by legal definition, they cannot, if the same actor that ended the night is back the next day, they have to start 12 hours later, which means that your 7 a.m. today becomes a 9 a.m. start tomorrow. This sort of thing can push the schedule back so you can start at 7 a.m. on Monday and you can start at 12, 1, 2 o'clock on Friday.
Right.
The issue with this show is that they ran into what they called a frat.
What is it?
Term with industry, where if you're working.
Hey, Scott, sorry to cut you off, and I know you're on a roll there. We lost your stream for a second.
Right.
Oh, bollocks.
Yeah, right. You were telling us the name, and then we didn't get the name.
You mean the Fraturday?
The Fraturday. Okay.
Okay. So you lost me at You had me at Fraturday. All right. Sorry.
Sounds like a party. Sure.
Yeah. Basically, with the Fraturday, what happens is if you start at a specific time on Friday, you don't wrap until Saturday morning. I've had shows where we would start at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon and literally wrap at 6 or 7 a.m. the next morning.
Ouch.
And for a lot of the crew guys, that does not mean they go home at wrap. They have to unpack. They have to be there an hour or two early to set up. So their 15-hour day can become a 16, 17, even 19-hour day.
At least,
Some of those hours not even on the clock. The problem with this particular show is it went Monday through Friday, had the Fraturday into Saturday, and then started again a 6-day work week on Sunday, and then went 6 days. Had the Fraturday, 6 days again. So they would get home on a Saturday morning at like probably 7, 8, 9, even 10 o'clock in the morning and have to be back the next day at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning to start a new work week. This is a lot of the source of contention here. Part of it is also, for me personally, I know 5 people that died from COVID. 4 of them are in the film industry. The other was a 58-year-old doctor. The close proximity has been a concern for a lot of people when it comes to the COVID aspect of things. So there's concerns there as far as the safety and the contract of that being up October 31st. There was another guy I met a while back who was working his 14, 15-hour days, 5 days a week, but couldn't undergo necessary herniated disc surgery. He had herniated discs, and he was working 5 days a week, grip or electrical, I forget which one it was, and continuing to work and rig up everything that he did without the ability to actually alleviate the herniated discs through surgery. This was a guy I remember, and I had a conversation with him. I've had herniated discs. They suck. It is one of the worst things you can deal with. But if you have a day off, you can basically naproxen and and cyclobenzaprine that if you need to, and just knock out and heal it up. He did not have that luxury. You basically medicate the best you can, but you have long work days. These guys are tired. They get injured. This is a concern for them. When I was working the show Severance, which under the alias name Tumwater on Apple TV, we had something called French hours, where we would be done guaranteed after 10 hours. So if you had a 9 a.m. start, you knew, bam, 6:59, we're done for the day. Goodbye. And it was a very bona fide system. You didn't have a lunch break, which is fine. Nobody cared. But they knew for a fact what time they were out of there. And Severance, despite the fact that it had a lot of late nights and a lot of overnights, was one of the happiest shoots I've ever seen. They didn't care because they knew what time they were leaving. And they knew how to handle it and adjust it accordingly. The concern that the IATSE has right now is the fact that injuries are happening. Death is even happening in some cases too. And they're tired of the fear. And this is part of the reason why I totally understand from a firsthand perspective why these guys want to make changes so they can have some semblance of a life again. They can see their families again and not have to worry about being injured. So yes, I stand 100% with it. They're going to vote on October 1st. The results should be October 4th. And I'll be honest with you, I would be shocked to hell if they didn't agree, if they didn't get at least 75% to say vote yes for a strike.
We know firsthand from being on the Dark Knight Rises set that background actors not necessarily being a part of that. There was over 75 to 100 accident reports just for background alone during the Dark Knight Rises. You were one of them. I remember that. I heard you say that you had a scene partner that basically just stomped on your leg because, I'm a method actor, he says.
No, that was the guy that found out that I had sprained my knee the night before. And he's like, well, my character wouldn't care basically about your injury, so I don't either. This was literally said to me as my knee was braced up for the second time. No, the first day was an accident. A guy on the other side.
I'm sorry.
A guy on the other side.
Hey, Ryan, I hear you, brother. I know what you're saying, man.
It was an accident.
Punched him in the nose.
What's that?
Well, punched him in the nose. Me as a person didn't care what happened to your nose.
Well, did he throw you into the pit afterwards?
I'm a method actor, he says.
Afterwards, he realized what a douchey thing that was to say, and he apologized to me. But
good.
But it was kind of like, did you ever have one of those things where you're so shocked by a response you just don't know what to do?
Yes.
I had that moment there because it's like,
the entire day of my dating life, yes.
Ryan O'Regan, basically, ladies and gentlemen, he's single.
There you go.
Why you bring me on?
But no, it's in all seriousness, I totally 100% get why they want to basically vote, why they're really in support of that strike, because the hours are long, there's safety concerns, there's smoke concerns. Sometimes that smoke is so thick you can't actually see anything in front of you.
Yeah.
But to set the ambiance of it, it's especially with the comic stuff. They have to set the smoke, the grittiness, the dark feel of it. And yeah, you come home and there's just black inside your system. I blew my nose and just pure black phlegm came out. And these guys got to deal with that sometimes daily.
Yeah, every single day.
I think, again, I'm not an actor on these film sets, but being a part of an independent film, I know a day where I go in and I'm going to have this shot in 6 hours. I'm going to have this shot in 7 hours. I had a film that was my schedule, and we shot for 20 hours straight, no break whatsoever.
Yeah.
And some of us should have had a break. Well, actually, all of us should have had a break. But the thing was that if we didn't shoot it, we wouldn't have had another day to shoot it. We wouldn't have had the whole crew to do it. And everything would have been screwed over on that shoot, on that film. Now, that's not me trying to defend the people who are saying, oh, you should be working 20 hours. You should be working the whole day, etc. But I think that's the double-edged sword we kind of have here. You're trying to make it better for the workers, but at the same time, this is going to lead to less content pushed out in a timely fashion. And in a day and age where even the nicest of people, or the supposed nicest of people, are there to defend you and fight for you, they're also they believe in such a self-satisfaction, like instant gratification,
Mhm.
that I wonder if that would win out in the end. Like if they say like, oh yeah, don't actors and crew, they should only get 8 hours, and then suddenly their favorite show takes 2 to 3 years to make, and like, well, no, you should work some overtime in there. Let's see if that changes in there at all.
You know, and like I said, it's not about even, I mean, listen, I don't think they mind necessarily overtime. They just don't want 14, 15-hour days on the clock with an additional need to have to actually, you know, load and unload, which, like I said, can be anywhere between an hour to upwards of 4 hours. You know, so a 15-hour day can easily be 16 to 19. And that's cutting into the sleep time.
Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to try. I apologize, Rob. I just wanted to get in one more point.
We got a comment I got to respond to here.
One of the other things I wanted to
Pouch,
mention real
a
quick.
small or medium-sized, soft but sturdy container for holding or carrying things.
Nice.
The more you know. What the heck was that?
I forgot. I have an Alexa hooked up to my board.
Oh, Alexa was listening.
Well, where did the word pouch come from in that?
Alexa,
that's
what
funny.
do you think of the
we call
Sorry, I don't know that.
Okay, maybe we can turn the Alexa off. She's listening.
She's off now.
You know,
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
it's like, but Amazon, they make great quality programming. Isn't it amazing?
Aren't they
Okay.
owned by Disney?
Probably.
No, they're Amazon. But so anyway, just back to the point I wanted to say here in regards to the hours too. You know, there are some people who are a little afraid of losing those hours because apparently they're getting a lot of overtime from it too. So it's another double-edged sword. You have the people who are like, we want more time with our family to do things we enjoy, and then other people going, no, we want the money. So you also have a like conflict there. Obviously, the fix is pay people more per hour, but let's see that happen.
I don't think here's the thing. I don't think financially speaking, a lot of the people in the union themselves are actually hurting financially. I mean, they make good coin, you know. So I think it's just really they just want to have a life again. You know, they want to be able to actually be somewhere, you know, like I said, associate. I mean, there's a guy, there's a second that I know, and Rob Stats is commenting here. You would know the person I'm talking about. He had a newborn, but he's doing 10, 12 days, 12 hours on the clock at a minimum, and plus the load in, load out. And it's just, he never gets to see his own kid growing up. And that's the kind of stuff that sucks. So,
Yeah.
you know, one of the basic
Money is no good if you're not around to spend it.
Yeah,
right.
One of the, Rob Stats' comments here, which actually would probably work. One of the counter proposals was a split crew. First crew comes in at after 8 hours. Second one, basically comes in at that point.
And they do
Yeah,
that.
because I mean, films have multiple units that go ahead and take care of everything. Which, you know, why is it that a television show, whether they're filming in one scene, you don't have a shift change? Well, other jobs have shift changes. Amazon have shift changes.
I work in broadcast news. I work first shift, and then there's another shift after me, and another shift after them. We do rotate. That's how it goes, and like, you know, when you don't do it correctly. I think just to point one more point. I'm a pro wrestling fan, and one thing that's been going on with wrestling recently, WWE, which has been very old school in their technique of how they get money from people. And they, for years, have overworked their talent, their wrestlers. Now that AEW's been around, they're finally seeing like, oh, you don't have to work hours and hours and hours. And I think that's what you need. You need a production company that's going to come around and start being the alternative to like this, as well as have some hits.
Well, part of it is also, I think, I'm sorry, Rob, you've been patient.
No, I was just going to say that I'll be the production company.
The problem is also, and this is one of the sources of contention, is sometimes you get directors that don't necessarily know what they want, possibly insecurity issues, whatever the case is, where you can see so many different takes from so many different angles because they can't figure out what their end game is. You have somebody like Spike Lee, Steven Soderbergh, Rob Reiner, for example. These folks know immediately what they want. They go in there, it's like a bam, 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 bam. I mean, there was Woody Allen too was another one. But Spike Lee would have like 8-9 hour days. Steven Soderbergh would have short days also. These guys knew what they want and they would just get it done. You know, they'd be like, all right, we're blowing through lunch, but you know what? Everybody's getting out of here at 3:30. And you know what? Nobody cared.
Mm-hmm.
But for the people in the IATSE, the union,
IATSE.
IATSE. Yeah, I know. You can call it IATSE.
IATSE.
But here's the thing. For anybody listening in that doesn't necessarily know what IATSE is, it's hard to spell that out. So that's why I've been doing IATSE.
Well, I mean, we're 20 minutes in. I think they know what IATSE is at this point.
IATSE. All right, fine. We'll go with that. But it's one of those things that if you had directors that knew what they were looking for, that were specific and had their game plan in mind, knock it out. I remember I was standing in on something and the director took 14 to 15 hours to shoot 3 scenes that involved just people talking because she couldn't figure out what she wanted to do. She was trying it from this angle, and a day inside the studio with just people talking became a brutally long ordeal. And that's the kind of stuff that frustrates crews immensely because it's like, okay, well, the person we had last episode knew what they want. They would have had it done in 8 or 9 hours. Instead, we're going 14 and I'm missing my kid's birthday now.
I think, as far as like short films though, that I had a short film that I shot a couple of years ago that I knew what I wanted in my scene. It was written out specifically in the script. This is the way I want it, as far as the way that my acting coach, he was the one that actually wrote the scene. I just added more into it to make it a more rounded sort of short film kind of thing. I gave it a name, that type of thing. But, when it comes to the script and everything, if you're working with a director that knows what they want, which is over and above the script, it may take more time. But if you're working with the script and you're saying, okay, this is what I want based on what is written in the action, in the dialogue, that type of thing, you can get what you want. You can even get, I think that you could even get an even superior scene just based on what is written in the script. That's my own opinion.
The thing you have to remember with film is, besides the director, we're focusing on the director here, but you have to kind of remember that it's a ton of people in charge on this thing.
Oh, absolutely.
So
that was just another reason for the source of contention, though.
I remember one of my biggest sources of contention in one of the films I did, and I thought, like, hey, I'll have this done in 4 hours, was an actor who couldn't remember their lines, and suddenly it became 13.
Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me, though. I only had, for the only thing that I only had like 5 lines.
No, it wasn't you. No, it wasn't for you. It wasn't with you. But even that shoot that I had, the first shoot we did together, it's like I wanted a shot of this angle and this angle and this angle, and then those 2 hours passed by, and like, oh, we have to get things done. Or you get a film, a big production like the ones that you're on, where now you have not only the director, but then you have the producer, and then you have the production company. Right. And they're all arguing, and then they're changing stuff around, and then they're doing reshoots, and suddenly your day is just screwed.
Yeah, it extends out even further.
And that's, like I said, part of the contention, because these guys, especially come wintertime, they're out in all sorts of weather. There was an incident that happened during a massive snowstorm. New York City had basically declared a state of emergency and shut down. The film industry did not shut down. And there was cases where people were falling off ladders, getting concussions, broken bones, and everything like that, because the show must go on. The city shut down, but the film industry did not. And that was something that was a major, major issue.
Does anyone here watch the shows that made us on Netflix?
I've seen a few of those.
They just had another season. They just had another season with Jurassic Park as one of them. And apparently they shot on this beautiful island some of their scenes, and then a major hurricane came. Instead of rushing off to finish the film, Steven Spielberg wanted to go out inside the storm with one of his camera crew to catch parts of the storm to use in the movie, which actually did happen. Wow. But it's just like, that's the other thing too. It's like, here's the thing about this industry, which it kind of sucks. When you come in, you are usually some starstruck kid who you're just happy to be there. Like, I'm a filmmaker. I'm part of TV. I'm part of film. I'm going to be famous one day. I can tell my friends I made this and I made that.
And I'm in the same room with insert celebrity here.
And, the people who run the production companies and such are smart enough to look at those people and go, I can sucker them. I can get them for real cheap.
Sure.
Or even with unions, like, hey, yeah, it's a good thing that you're part of the union. Unfortunately, no one knows who you are. There's a million of you. So if you don't want to do this, I mean, I'll just get this person who's also in the union to do it.
Right.
And there's
That wants to do it.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of it too. It's like, well, we can just easily replace you with someone else.
Yeah.
But to see a unique solidarity, I believe the IA solidarity is the hashtag they've been using. But between IATSE, between SAG, between all of the unions out there that are all like, yeah, we don't want to work 14 to 15 hours a day plus load in and load out, and here's the problem. When you work a Saturday, you lose your entire Saturday because you need that Saturday just to recharge your batteries so you can have a normal day off. And that's what, whenever I did Saturdays, that was my biggest problem. I get back at the house, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. I'd sleep for 3 or 4 hours, but I'd be sluggish as hell the entire day, and my Saturday would just be kind of blown because you just had cocaine's a hell of a drug. So is cold brew, by the way. Cold. There were times where I would take cold brew, 16 ounces, no cream, no ice, just straight up.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. That heart went, oh yeah. It was pretty rough, but again, I'd ruin my Saturday just trying to recover from the week. And then my Sunday would be normal, but then I would have to be up at the crack of dawn or earlier because there'd be a 7 a.m. crew call. And that's what it sucked for me to have to do that the half a dozen, maybe 12 times that I had to do it. For these guys, it's 4 times a month. It's 4 weekends a month, 4 weekends a month. And yeah, it burns out. It really does. And at this point, I'm 46 years old. I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I talked about the starstruck kids. Then you get to that point where you're like, yeah, I don't care anymore. Give me money.
Exactly.
Also, yeah.
But yeah, at that point, it's like, cocaine, Red Bull, cold brew, cigarettes, and rage. And that's how they get through the day. Cocaine, I'm not sure.
Is that in any particular order?
To be fair, the cocaine, I do not know for a fact if that's true. The other 4, yes, I do. The Red Bull, the cold brew, the cigarettes, and the rage, yeah, that's all definitely there. But long story short, it's going to be very interesting to see what goes forward with this.
Yeah, so
good.
The vote's going to be October 1st, and
Yes.
Decision would be by October. The strike will occur on October 4th if that's the case.
If the announcement is October 4th. Now they might set an extension deadline to be like, okay, well maybe we can give this a week and we can hammer something out or something like that. That can happen. That does happen. But October.
But considering Monday's the start of a brand new week, obviously they'll want to have things hammered out before anything gets underway. Because then if it has to stop, then you're already halfway into it.
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean it's taken a while because the wheels of anything like this move slowly. The more people are involved, the slower the process. But the fact that they've gotten to this point, again, I would be blown away if it ended up being a no. They require at least 75% to vote yes on this. I would be shocked if they fell below that.
Considering how much will probably get shut down if there is a strike,
Mm-hmm.
I would think it would be in everyone's best interest to hammer it out. Yes, thank you, for the Dave Chappelle reference, Rick James. But I want to think with all the content and all the work that has to be done, especially as we're getting into the lower months of 2021, before winter comes around and before there is the few breaks on the shows and before you have to worry about pilot season come early next year, you want to have everything hammered out as soon as possible, because if everything does shut down, you're talking coast to coast, and we around here in New York, it's going to hit a lot of people, not just behind the scenes, but also all the actors that would have to be on these products. And
that's the
mind
thing.
you, yes, some won't be affected, but others will. I mean, just not everyone can live off of HBO Max and the 1 or 2 cop shows that go ahead constantly.
But that's the thing. You're when you go on strike, you're trying to see who's going to outlast. Are you going to survive, or are they going to survive? Because this would be the perfect time when production is at its heaviest. Yes, it'll hurt you, but it'll hurt them because they're going to lose millions upon billions.
This is actually the busiest time of the year right now, especially in the New York area, because all the TV shows, have already started up again, and a lot of them are running till January or May. So this is the time to strike.
But I'm also concerned because remember what happened during the writer's strike back when that happened.
07, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, yeah, we
Heroes
lost out
was a
on some
victim there.
shows and certainly some things got pushed back, but the industry also found a way that they were going to be able to make content regardless of the writer's strike. And that's when a lot more reality television started coming into play and whatnot. They will find a way, if they can, to make content regardless of the strike if they think it's going to go on longer than they want to.
Yeah.
So
Well,
the businesses have enough money that they may not care.
I want to just say this though, with the writer's strike is a little different because with the writer's strike, they couldn't produce fictional content, but they could still do reality TV, as Rob's kind of pointing out. They could still do the talk shows, etc. Now, if you're doing something that's going to affect the camera people and all the technicians and all the other background people, you're going to lose your production crew unless you're going to go out there and hire scabs, which you're not really allowed to do. You can't really make anything.
Well, you're losing a crew under one particular union. They will go ahead and find another union if they wanted to. And I'm not saying necessarily scabs, but certainly they could find a way to circumvent something.
Don't go over other unions. And coming from a union family, unions don't go over unions. It's bad. They don't.
I would want to believe that, but considering we already had like a whole year where there was no production going on because of the pandemic, others may not be as forthright to stick to that. They may be like, okay, if they're not going to work, we will.
No, they're not. No union is going to cross another union because then it just defeats their union. It makes them look bad. And then their people are going to go back to them.
As being that person or that union in this case. The long-term reputation gets hurt.
If you're part of a union family, you don't cross a union line. That's how it is.
Mr. Scab.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Hey, I'm not in a union, so I can't really say one way or the other, but
I can't say whether or not like the reenactment shows or reality television, if they use union crew or not. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. But if they don't, then basically, you could see an uptick big time in that.
And there is cases like that. I was always told before I went to New York, I was told every television station in New York City works for the union. And I've now worked in New York City for 5 years and I'm still not part of a union. So, there probably is a lot of productions out there that aren't using unions. But at the same time, I think it's going to hurt them. It's going to hurt them real bad if they go on strike.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, and also how long it lasts too.
I don't think
the drivers are Teamsters too, so the drivers aren't going to get involved.
I don't really believe it'll even last very long, really, to be honest with you, because I just this last week I was applying to a job that was IATSE, unionized, whatever. That they personally felt like they felt that their work wasn't going to last. As far as the strike was concerned, they weren't going. It wasn't going to last too long.
I don't know. Like I said, it remains to be seen. The truth is, in my opinion, we can't judge. We can't, prejudge this. We can't assume anything on this. We're just going to have to take a wait and see approach, see what happens, and roll with it. For me, speaking selfishly, 100% selfishly, I qualified for my health insurance. So I got mine. If I had basically a December deadline and I was short, I'd probably be more nervous about this. But right now, I'll be like, all right, we'll figure it out.
Well, let me ask you this, Scott, not to put you on the spot here, but let's say you end up being a part of a production that uses this union for their crew, and they do go on strike starting October 4th, but this production continues forward with a different crew with scabs. Would you, as a member of a different union, still be a part of that production?
Here's the thing. First of all, I'm not really tied to anything that would fall into that category. You've given me one hell of a question. And truth be told, I probably would stick with them. Yes. I thought about, you're like you said, you're putting me on the spot. I haven't given that question any thought, but Yeah, no, it's okay. Listen, I like the challenge questions. I like to consider things I hadn't considered before, and this is definitely one of them. Yeah, I would probably do it. I think I'd have to explain some things to the missus, about why I did it. But I think at the end of the day, I'd be like, you know what? Again, I get where they're coming from. I mean, most people that work, I'd say you talk to background people. I find it laughable. It's like, we work just as hard as crew. When you woke up from your nap to get a craft, go to the craft table before you watch Netflix. It's like, dude, no, you don't. But I've had respect and sympathy for crew for years. I mean, in 11 years I've been in this industry, I've seen firsthand the crap that they've had to deal with and the crap that they don't complain about. This is one of those things where it was a very long fuse and now it's attached to a very large bomb. And the fact that it took this long kind of shocked me a little bit. I would have figured this would have happened years ago. Once Netflix and Amazon and all the streaming services really started to take off, they'd be like, let's change this around a little bit. PG will hurdle the picket line to get crafty. Yeah.
Hey, don't screw with my baby.
I know I would.
And then from there, steal the craft table stuff and put it into their backpack to bring home. Yes, that happens.
Exactly.
Bags full of oranges.
We have done that
now
Scott,
because of COVID. It's tougher now because of COVID, because of the fact that the stuff is handed to you. But yes, I would see people just, they would take bags. They'd take a Ziploc bag, or they would take a duffel bag and just drop all this stuff in there.
Hofstra? You remember Hofstra?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, that was, okay. That's an example there, but you'd see, background people on union sets who would do that too, or would gripe about how they're not getting sandwich o'clock because, anything crew gets, we're supposed to get as well. It's like, okay, well, you just, again, woke up from your nap and you've been playing Candy Crush for 2.5 hours while griping on Facebook about politics. These guys get fired if they sit down. And that's a fact too, depending on the production. Some productions, yes, they will. That is, sitting down is a fireable offense. So,
unfortunately, I wish I got to talk to this individual more. I was at Best Buy yesterday, and I ended up running into an individual who worked for Netflix, and he did film and TV production there. Okay. Unfortunately, his coworker was kind of I'll just politely say a jerk. And I didn't get to talk to him as much as I wanted to, but he was not getting enough work, and that's why he was there at Best Buy. But it's kind of curious, like these people are like, that's another thing too. If they don't get enough hours, are they going to get paid more, and are they going to be like second gig economy? That's another thing to bring up too, and not to bring in politics into this, but from what I had heard recently, Biden's actually pushing for some stuff that would. I think businesses, if they have more than 5 employees, they're going to have to start forcing everyone to they have to actually institute their own 401k plans. Mm-hmm. And I believe right now, if you do anything with money, like it has to be reported if it's over $10,000. Biden's trying to push something where anything over $600 has to be reported.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Okay. Well,
to my understanding, this is kind of a way to try to go after gig economy stuff where they're trying to cut down on people and see where the money's going with all these contractors and freelancers.
It's a
Here's the thing: I can get into a financial conversation about SEP IRAs and KIOs and all that kind of stuff.
1099K.
Just because they can offer 401k does not mean that they're required to match. So they just have to explore the option. The problem is most people don't understand enough about 401ks of any sort, whether, like I said, SEPs or KIO plans or any of the smaller level stuff, to understand how it works. But again, in this particular case, looking into it, there's no guarantee that the company itself has to do any kind of match. In which case they got an so.
Oh yeah, no, I don't really see any kind of company really having to match what an employee puts in.
I spent so many years teaching 401ks and what people had 30 years of money put into 401ks and had no idea where their money was going. One of the first things I did to ensure, a credibility and build a connection was like, let me take a look at it. I can't do anything with it, but at least you'll have an understanding.
Isn't it just a savings account? No, it's not a savings account.
But no, they would put. I had somebody. We're going off topic here, but I had somebody who's 62 years old, had 85% of their money sitting in one stock. That stock was Enron. And at 62 years old.
Oh, ouch.
And because they had all their money, they didn't know what they had. So so they had all their eggs into this one basket. They left it there for years, and the first thing when I saw her, she's like, I lost everything, and you try to put a good spin on it, but you're like, yeah, you're boned. That's a financial thing. Boy, I could do a class on that to this day because I spent 7.5 years there, but that has nothing to do with what we're talking about here. As we're now,
when the show tells from the trust fund, I'm sorry, I may be the dumbest one here, but I am getting so lost, and I'm like, when are they going to get the Cobra Kai?
I know. All right. So anyway, yes, strike may happen. I'm in favor of it. Yay, them. Cobra Kai season 4. Okay. By the way, find us also on Twitter at Film Set Tales, and on Instagram, and also on Facebook at Tales from the Film Set. Yeah, we ran definitely overtime on that.
Well, in fairness, we are technically a film-based program talking about behind the scenes of film.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but the poor guy down there is like, I want to talk Cobra Kai. I've been too patient with this. I'm bored.
Well, I'm
Give
sorry.
me my pop culture.
All right. So anyway,
it's still a show, though. I mean, we're not on MSNBC or anything.
I was planning to go 20 minutes, maybe 25 with this whole thing anyway. All right. Cobra Kai season 4. We have a release date, December 31st at this point. Ryan's going to crane kick Scott. That's fine. Scott will just step back because the crane kick actually is a fake kick anyway. All it is just a jumping kick to the torso or the head, depending. But yeah, the best way to basically avoid it is to just move off to the side. Now the drum punch, no, just kidding. The drum punch from Karate Kid 2 or the kata from 3. But this is something I'm surprised they're doing New Year's Eve. Now, last year, if you guys remember, they originally were going to premiere January 8th and then bumped it back to January 1st. I wonder if they're going to do something similar to that this year, where it's going to be like this, December 31st, and then maybe the day after Christmas, for example. Please, for whatever you do not release it on December 22nd, because that's the day the new Matrix movie is coming out, and I will have conflicts in my own brain. Let's separate best as we can here. But I love how season 3 ended. I guess we're basically at this point, we're going to talk spoilers, I suppose, as well. I thought season 3 went about as close as I could have asked for, and it was the ending about as close as I could have asked that ending to be. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
I'm thinking.
Personally, I love the idea of the whole December 31st thing, because not only, yes, final weekend, it's on a Friday. If anyone's going to go ahead and do anything on that weekend, sitting in home with all of your ill-begotten goods from the holidays before, binging on the weekend of bringing in the new year, you could probably binge the whole thing even before midnight on January 1st. I think it's a great way to just give people something to look after. How many people do we know, whether if it's ourselves or not, go ahead and watch like the Honeymooners marathons or the Twilight Zone marathons and all that stuff on New Year's Eve or even New Year's Day? You have a set proprietized maybe of time where people just sit and chill, and maybe they shoot off a couple of fireworks, may do a couple of noisemakers, and then they just go back to sitting and watching television and maybe drinking.
Well,
it's a perfect point to do it at.
Rebecca's like, I love Lucy. Yeah, that runs marathons too.
The millennials, at least, I would assume that they would be like watching, the Cobra Kai because.
Well, yeah, millennials and probably even Gen X, because these are the people that are ingrained to this story. Regardless of the younger people that you got, it's still a franchise from the 80s. So you are still targeting the people that grew up with the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So I love that idea. Now, as for the trailer, the fact that we're all just like burning it down to like the All Valley tournament again, it's like, God damn it. All right. I hate that we're going through all the paces, but I guess the whole like karate turf war, on the outskirts and then in people's homes, that's been done now. We can't do much more than that. Otherwise the cops will get involved. So fine.
There's no police in this town.
No, there really aren't. I would love to see the police in the town and love to see them get their asses kicked by the
Season 3, they did that. Season 3, they addressed it with the police. I'm afraid we can't do anything about karate.
It was the first episode when Johnny got arrested. The only time the police showed up was when Johnny got arrested in the first episode.
Well, no, Season 3, remember when I can't remember character names, but not Johnny. Who's the other one? Daniel. Yeah. Daniel's wife ends up going like, no. Screw this. We're going to the police. And they go to the police and find out that who's the evil karate master?
Martin Cove, John Kreese.
John Kreese. So
Love
John
that
Kreese has already been there, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm just a veteran, and I'm poor, and this woman, she threatened me, and blah blah blah."
Exactly.
And it's like, well, police, what are you gonna do? Nothing. You threatened him. If you go near him again, we're gonna arrest you.
Exactly.
By the way,
And that's how they address the police.
I just want to point this out. For Marty Cove, I am so happy for that man. I got to know him when his career was kind of disappeared. He had he had the Karate Kid movies. He had Rambo, Cagney, and Lacey, and then he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth for a while. And he's doing a lot of indie stuff and things like that. That's where I got to know him from. That's where we started hanging, and that was when we was smoking cigars in my car, which is a really cool thing. I'm so happy to see that guy have a resurgence of his career more than Ralph Macchio, more than William Zabka, to see him rejuvenated again. Where he's doing commercials for like QuickBooks and parodying Cobra Kai and Karate Kid. He was on Dancing with the Stars last night. Spoiler alert: he was voted off the island. But the fact that
God damn it,
the fact that he was
had money on that, Ryan.
What's that?
Had money on that, Ryan.
Down, yeah, but I didn't.
I was, like I said, for me, it's nice to see him have that resurgence of his career again. Where it's not the struggling aspect. When I think it was Mitch Hurwitz contacted him to be in Cobra Kai, he was trying to angle to have him in the first season earlier, as opposed to that end reveal at the end of the first season. He's trying to basically be like, well, maybe you can have me come in a little bit earlier, and he had to trust Mitch Hurwitz to be like, we're going to bring you in big, there's a big reveal. Yeah. And then if we have a season 2 and so on, you're the main guy. And he had to put a lot of blind faith where his career, like I said, really wasn't there. And nobody knew what Cobra Kai was going to be. It was like, okay, you're doing a Karate Kid TV show,
on YouTube.
On YouTube, no less. On
YouTube Red. Yeah.
YouTube Red, and there was a lot of question marks with that. So everybody thought, okay, well, we'll take a look at it. And it was like, it matched both the nostalgia and like, oh my God, this is actually good.
It was. I agree, man. I mean, I totally agree. From the very first episode, as far as like, Johnny being involved in that like little incident at the liquor store.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like a, what do you call that? Like a spoiler alert?
Nah, dude, that's season 1, episode 1. I think it's
5 years ago.
I think season 1 is spoilers now.
Yeah, I mean, as far as him being involved in that little incident there, and then like, okay, I'm going to try and at least get something started with this because, I felt a little power. Maybe I can get this thing going again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but to be so painfully antiquated. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Now, as far as the new season is concerned, though, I do have one trepidation. Thomas Ian Griffith being brought back as Terry Silver.
Mm-hmm.
What up?
I am not liking the look of the long hair thing. Like, does he still need a ponytail in this day and age? I'm sorry. This is the point where I feel like, it's really going to look like it's aging itself.
Didn't we
find he still has a ponytail.
Didn't we find out?
Really funny.
Didn't we find out in season 3 that he was like, an army buddy?
Well, yes, that's actually how they were in Karate Kid 3 and also in Cobra Kai season 3.
Yeah, that's how they incorporated him into the third film.
Yeah. But being in the army and everything and being special forces kind of thing, he didn't necessarily have the long hair. That's kind of what I'm alluding to.
Well,
no, but I mean, it was fine in the 90s when you were going to go ahead and bring in like a cool kick-ass karate instructor. You slick back the hair. You probably put like a big brick of a mobile phone in his car or something. Very other time. Now, I think of like all the old actors that they're bringing back into this series. He's going to be the one that's probably looked the most worse for wear, and I feel like that's going to maybe be a bit of a hindrance into like the mentality of what's going on here.
In Hurwitz, we trust, but I think it would be really funny if it was like a Gene Hackman Superman reveal where he pulls the hair off and he's suddenly just stone bald.
That's a sturdy toupee if he's able to pull it back in the ponytail and have that like one little knot there.
Lex Luthor. So, but I think like I don't know. I did have that same feeling myself when I looked at it because it didn't look quite right. I mean, it worked kind of in 1990. I think it was Karate Kid 3. You know,
89, I think it was 89.
89. Okay, that's right. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah.
89 at that point. You're right. You know, but now here we are 32 years later. You know, you go from 27 to now 59. I just looked him up. He's 59 years old now. The hair doesn't really necessarily still work anymore.
Yeah.
But like I said, maybe they'll figure something out. Maybe they'll work with something. You know,
Right, but I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's like it worked for Zabka because he was essentially a guy playing someone who was living through his glory day, and for that character, for that actor, for that person, that sort of mentality fit. I don't know if I necessarily want to see one more guy in like his 50s or some odd living out some sort of glory days, especially when he was an adult in the damn movie. He's not a child.
Well, all right, but then
well, so was
again,
Ralph Macchio. He was an adult in the Karate Kid 3 too.
Oh no,
Yeah.
exactly.
But Martin Cove is just like one of those things where like you look at Martin Cove hasn't like changed at all. Even when he did other movie roles, he was always like, kind of like that sort of strictness to him. He had that. That's just his character. That's like De Niro. De Niro plays De Niro regardless what role he's playing. Cove plays Cove no matter what role he's playing.
Okay, but do you believe that maybe what was the character you and I were talking about this earlier, Scott? The from the fourth one, what was her name?
Oh, Hilary Swank, Julie.
Right. What if
Yeah.
she were to come back, or even like Jaden Smith? All right, I mean, they were talking about that originally in the beginning.
Will Smith is producer of Cobra Kai.
Exactly. So, I mean, what if they were to try and at least bring back one of those characters? Would it at least
Suddenly Jackie Chan makes an appearance.
And I wouldn't necessarily be so bad about, especially as far as Hilary Swank is concerned. If anyone watched, what was it, the Hunt, like last year or whatever, that movie that came out with like the Republicans hunting Democrats and stuff like that, and Hilary Swank was in that movie. That final scene, that final fight scene with her, epic. Hilary Swank can still go. I would love to see that.
We got to start wrapping this up, but I don't know about you guys, but I kind of want to continue this. And I think we're guaranteed we're going to be talking about season 4 anyway. But do you have any issues with maybe continuing this next week?
No, we can't talk about this again. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The vote is 3 yeses to 1. Basically, I'm on. JT is like, I'm on the fence. I don't know. I haven't decided.
Well, by next week, if the strike does go on, then I mean that conversation is already set in stone. We won't be able to say anything until they finish up. So, yeah, next week we'll have plenty of time to talk about other things.
Sure, and we, like I said, we never got the Stranger Things 4 or anything like that either. So, because we spent 40 minutes talking about the potential strike. Apologies for rambling on that. All right, so we got to wrap this up. I do, like I said, I'm looking forward to Cobra Kai season 4, and I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it. I really am. But we got to wrap it up for right now. On behalf of Mr. Robert Leckington, Mr. Ryan O'Regan, who did double duty today, thank you for pinch hitting also on my 4 p.m. show to talk wrestling and MMA. I'm grateful for that. Mr. JT McGuire, who is off from work this week, and it's congratulations there. My name is Scott Churchson. I have to go to bed because I got to get up in about 6, maybe 6.5 hours. But this has been Tales from the Film Set. As always, you can find us one more time on Facebook and also on Instagram at Tales from the Film Set, and also on Twitter at Film Set Tales. Zingo TV is available across 4 different continents, I believe 35 different countries, so you can always check us out. Any thoughts, ideas, comments, questions, or complaints, let me know. There's my Twitter handle. Thanks as always for tuning in. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. You, and you. You.
You.
Have a great night. Take care.
Happy Friday Day.